All right, project air conditioning in the middle of winter continues. I've got the system all sealed up. I got the lines crimped today. Got the lines installed. This is one of the ones we got crimped here. Got that installed, and I can kind of index them a little different once I get the belt on and the belt tightened. We got oil in the system. This is the other line that we got crimped, and actually it is a new line, not the one that we went to get crimped. This piece is our original, but if you look, there's actually more or less a compression fitting here now. Long story short, getting these lines crimped was a little bit more difficult than what I expected. Initially took them to Dan Starter and Alternator, which is a real good guy here local to us, and he didn't feel comfortable just because he didn't know the style of fitting or collar they were using, so he didn't want to over crimp them or have any problems. So he recommended another guy, gave them a call, and his crimper actually had broke, and he wasn't really sure when he was going to get that fixed. So went to my third resort, which is a company I knew that could do it, but they're about 30 minutes away, so I was trying to save myself the drive. But I ended up going to them. They build AC and hydraulic lines all day, every day. That's all they do. So I know they would be able to do it. Took it to them. They were pretty busy. They got the one crimp for us, but this is our other one. They had over crimped the heck out of this one. The guy was real cool about it. He pointed it out. He didn't try to give it back to me like this or anything. But, yeah, I guess he wasn't familiar with this collar either. No biggie. But then ended up making a new line because this one was the exact length we needed, just to give us that exact length. And then we just ended up going with a compression where that would crimp would be. So it's just a crimped collar and a compression. But no problems there. He took care of it for us and was real honest about it. And hey, it's a mistake. I get it. Stuff happens, and that's why Dan's didn't want to do it, because he didn't want to make that mistake. So I completely understand. Honestly, that's exactly why I didn't do it. I have access to the stuff too. Didn't really know which collar it was going to take or which dies it was going to take for this collar. Didn't want to screw it up. So, hey, it happens, no big deal. But nope, I appreciate them getting it crimped for me, and they treated us really fairly on it, so there's no issue there. But definitely was a bit of a project getting it crimped. Was not as straightforward as what I would expect, but they do tell you in the box, just for others that would be getting this kit, this is the Classic Auto Air Kit, that for $25 they will crimp them for you plus the shipping. You kind of put your information there and ship them back to them. The only issue for me is they're in Tampa, Florida, and waiting a week, maybe even two, not really an option for me. I'm not in a huge hurry, but I wanted to get the system sealed, and I have other projects that I need to get going on after this, so a week or two on a line just doesn't make sense for me. So this route worked. Everything came out nice. I'm happy with it. I mean, if you were trying to keep this system 100% correct, the compression collar there isn't really correct, but that's not necessarily what we're going for here. I mean, we've converted the system to R134A. It's got aftermarket condenser, compressor. These lines were going to be aftermarket regardless. They just would have looked a little more original. So I didn't really have an issue with that. It'll still work for us. So I could see it being an issue if someone was trying to keep these 100% correct. Then I would just recommend go ahead and ship it back to Classic Auto Air and have them crimp it for you. But no, that was my experience today. No biggie. It all worked out, but just didn't go as smoothly as what I would have hoped, but you'll have that. I can't even count how many times things like that happens, but also a note to anyone out there, a huge reason why I do so much, and honestly a part of the reason of who I am and how I got into this was in my early days, and literally like 12, 13, working on cars, I started to notice a pattern. And the pattern was I couldn't control things that were outsourced. And I would run into problems later on and started to notice the pattern that things that were outsourced weren't necessarily done correctly. And I remember it just blowing my mind at a young age of just finding issues with outsourced work. And that kind of developed who I am today. I try to do everything myself. And not try to get on a tangent on that. Just if little things like this bother you, that's kind of what turned me into who I am. I kind of build engines, build trannies, all my personal stuff, a few customers that I do it for as well, but I do it all that way I know it was done correct. And if I screwed something up, I know I screwed it up. So it goes both ways, but it's definitely, I think, paid off in the long run for sure and helped me understand things a lot better. So it was definitely good. I'm glad I learned all this at a young age, but just kind of something to think about. I mean, a lot of people, me included, at different times in my life, you think, well, I can't do that. I don't have, well, you'd be surprised what you can do with minimum tools. I mean, it's the attitude you go into it with. And yeah, it might take you down a road that's going to be a lot more difficult than what you ever expected, but you just keep chipping away at it and you'll get it done. And that's been my kind of philosophy throughout all this is the first 4L60E transmission I did, I was 16. I'd never done a transmission like that in my life, and it worked every time I put it back together. It was on my own personal car. I didn't get it right the first couple times, but you know, by the honestly probably third or fourth time, we had a transmission that was holding up, and I ran that transmission into the 1040, 1030 range, 680, 700 wheel horsepower at that age. That was the transmission I built. But that's the mindset you got to have if you're going to try to do things by yourself. You're just going to understand that it's probably not going to go as smooth as what you want, and you're going to have to work really hard at it, but you can go pretty darn far. And for example, that transmission, that's something that guys are going to pay $2,500 for, $2,000, $2,500 for. I mean, with converter and everything, probably $3,000. I probably had $800 into that thing, even with taking it in and out all those times. So there was money saved. I was young, I had time. So just different ways to think about things. But not to get off on that tangent, just thought it'd be a little bit of a piece of advice for people out there that think they want to get into this type of stuff and or think they might not be able to do something. It's just time. That's the biggest thing I'd look at here is it's just time. You gotta stick with it. That's for darn sure. But there's a lot of lessons to be had, and me just sticking with things and continuing to figure things out is what progressed to everything. So that's that. We're going to get a few more things wrapped up here tonight, and then I'm going to probably vac this system down tomorrow and probably get it charged up by the end of the week. All right, thanks.